so abysmal.
I haven't noticed.
Welcome back, wonderful people. Hope you guys are doing well. Today, we have lots of fun in store. Fun along the Folkston Funnel.
Wow.
Yep, it is finally time for me to head down to this infamous CSX spot. At this moment, I'm on my way out of Atlanta, navigating the horrible traffic in this area with the Main Man, Ice Climber, and Atlanta Terminal Productions, as we make the long journey down towards South Georgia.
Really? Don't worry, I got it on film for you.
Before heading to Folkston, we intended to stop at Waycross. And before getting to Waycross, I recognized on the route a particular city that may or may not have had a locomotive that I wanted to see. And unfortunately, neither ICE nor ATL knew where this locomotive was, or if we were even going to see the tracks on our way through this town. So we really didn't expect to see anything. We found it! What a wonderful surprise. Before us, my friends, is CaterParrot Railnet unit number 5000. This locomotive is an EMD E8, originally built in 1953 and having been through a number of owners over the past few decades. First belonging to the New York Central System, then Penn Central, then going to New Jersey Transit, then going to the Tennessee Central Railway Museum, before finally somehow making its way down to the CaterParrot Railnet in South Georgia. The CaterParrot Railnet that we're on right now is a short line that operates on 4 different divisions in Georgia: the Savannah Division, the Valdosta Division, the Madison Division, and the Thomason Division. And across these different divisions, they provide a number of different rail services, including servicing local businesses and industries, and also interchaining with the railroad, such as moving and storing some of the old Norfolk Southern M-2s before they eventually got reactivated and put back into service. However, in addition to the freight services that CPR provides, they also provide a number of different passenger services, the biggest one being the Azalea Sprinter that runs from Valdosta, Georgia to Nashville, Georgia, and finally ending in Willacoochee, Georgia. And this passenger service is the reason that 5000 has been brought down here. Before, they had some old Jeeps that they were using to run this train, but as of late, this EMD E8 has been running this train, sporting a caboose and some old passenger cars and sitting next to an old station in the city here. To be honest, the main reason that I was really interested in this locomotive is because of the top.
What are you talking about?
There are 3 horns
What?
that sport 13 chimes in total. I was told that it was a K5LLA, a K5LA, and a P3 that are up here. Why they have 3, I have no idea, because based on the videos that I've seen of this thing running, it appears that they mainly just use the K5LLA. It's definitely very cool getting to see one of these in operation. There are not too many of these still running around. There's fortunately one of these up in Duluth, Georgia that runs at the Southeastern Railway Museum, Southern 6901, which actually used to run the Crescent train before Amtrak took that over. Regardless, despite it being over 70 years old, locomotives like these are still providing service for the railroads in 2024.
Sensational.
Well, with this train clearly showing no activity and no signs of moving, we left this vintage Kansas in the midst of this equally vintage city and continued on our way towards Waycross, Georgia. Before we made our way towards Waycross, Georgia, we were noticing long strings of rolling stock sitting in the midst of some trees, so we took a little side route and came across this.
This is interesting.
This is a scene to be seen.
And as we drive down the road, we pass by a sign that provides a clue as to who is controlling all this. These rails belong to the St. Mary's Railway West.
What is that?
Which, according to their website, is a privately owned Class 3 shortline railroad that operates in the heart of Southeast Georgia, which provides convenience services to companies like CSX, which are very close to this area, as you'll see soon. They advertise their main service as just storage for idle or underutilized rail cars and locomotives, but in addition to storage, it appears that they also service some of the other local industries, in addition to repairing some of the rail cars that get put onto their trackage. Continuing down to the end of the public road, we see more rail cars, in addition to locomotives that are actually online and running. Apparently, it is very hard to see this railway in operation, and we still left.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, this area was very ghetto. This wouldn't be the end of our SMW operation sightings, because we were driving down a road and to the left, we barely caught the glimpse of a headlight moving off in the distance. So we turned around and made a pit stop at this little split off that's in the road here, surrounded by a few grade crossings, to see another locomotive off in the distance.
Where's you from, cuz?
This locomotive appears to have a darker blue livery, and from zooming in on it and doing some online research, this unit appears to be GMTX number 91, a former CSX EMD SW1000 locomotive that now belongs to the company GATX, a leaser company that has a large fleet of both locomotives and rolling stock. This unit in particular appearing to be one of many old EMD switch units that GATX has assumed over the years from previous owners. And looking on Google Maps from our present location, we can see by zooming out that just down the road from us is actually a GATX rail facility, in addition to a number of industries that lie along the railroad tracks, which is probably what this train is working right now. We waited here hoping that they would come up to us, but unfortunately they started to reverse off to some other industry that was back over there. So we knew there was no point in us staying here, and finally proceeded down towards Waycross, Georgia. Now, Waycross is really famous for both its diamond and its rice yard that is off to the left. But in addition to the CSX operations, you have this little obscure set of trackage that has a lot of old locomotives.
What is this?
This business here is Locomotive Specialists. That is literally their name. And they're so low-key to the point that they don't have a website, nor do they have a logo. So I had my sister make one. Appreciate you. And from my understanding, it appears that they do some sort of overhaul or repair type stuff over here to both older locomotives and some rolling stock. I've heard they've had some pretty crazy power here over the years, but as for now, they just had a bunch of switchers, including one that appears to belong to the SMW, which is based on the paint scheme. In addition to a shuttle wagon, that's probably the main source of power for moving stuff around the trackage here. I mentioned before that CSX's rice yard is just off to the left. And fortunately for us, just as we got here, there happened to be a manifest leaving the yard right now.
Nice.
And that wasn't the only train in the area.
Hello there.
Because turning around, we were greeted with the sight of a red nose and Canadian Pacific Power leading a B train. Now, in case y'all are confused on the railroad layout of what's going on here, let's look at a map. So on Google Maps, we are currently standing on this bridge over here, overlooking the Locomotive Specialist trackage and a very large diamond that services all the CSX traffic here. This diamond is critical because it gives access to CSX's Rice Yard on the left, the CSX Fitzgerald subdivision on the top, and the CSX Jessup subdivision on the bottom. Now the right side can either go to the CSX Jessup subdivision if you keep going straight, or if a train takes that switch and goes off to the right, they suddenly hit the Brunswick subdivision. So with 3 different subdivisions and a huge rail yard that are all connected by this diamond, you can imagine that this area sees a lot of trains. And today was no exception, as now the CSX manifest coming out of the yard diverges onto the Jessup subdivision and starts heading down south, bypassing that B train that we had seen off in the distance. As the manifest continues by, we can see the crew getting out of that B train, indicating that they are probably about to tie down this train. And with the manifest gone, and the crew now gone out of that B train, or at least I think it is, I'm not even seeing tank cars anymore, we decided to leave, get some gas and food, and continue down south, bypassing this huge CSX monitoring shed before finally arriving to the infamous Folkston, Georgia.
community.
And upon coming here, even though there wasn't any mainline action going by immediately, there was some maintenance activity before us off in the distance, with some truck picking up some old ties, what appears to be some maintenance personnel walking the tracks, and an SD40-2 leading some sort of empty train that's parked off in the siding here. Folkston has garnered the name the Folkston Funnel because a good chunk of trains, especially intermodals that come up from Florida into Georgia, run these rails, in addition to manifest and local traffic and a lot of Amtrak trains. Of course, since PSR, a lot of that traffic has died down, but this area still is pretty active and you can definitely catch a lot of stuff. Anyways, as soon as we got here, there was some sort of clearance aspect that was given on the right track, but CSX is reportedly infamous for lining out trains a very long time before they actually get here, so we had a little bit of waiting before this train came. In the midst of it coming, we decided to move down a little bit, where there was still some more maintenance activity going on, and now we can get a closer look at the train that is parked off in the siding here, being led by CSX SD40-2 number 8052, and carrying what appears to be rail gondolas? I'm not really sure what these are. And for some reason, also being online, which had my hopes raised that they were actually going to start moving, but we met someone named Damian, who had a lot more information than we had, and he said that apparently that this locomotive had been online for like 2 days. Wow. Why that is, don't ask me. Anyways, as a high railer bypasses us, and CSX cop showed up, I was waiting for the train that had that clearance that we had seen earlier, until all of a sudden, this random train appeared out of nowhere. Apparently this was some local train that was coming off of the Jessup subdivision, which completely jump scared me. So I clearly had no understanding of the railroad layout of this area. So back to the maps we go. The mainline section that we are standing right next to is the CSX Nahunta subdivision, which starts where the Jacksonville Terminal subdivision ends and runs all the way up to Ogeechee, Georgia, up until where the Savannah subdivision begins. Jacksonville is actually where CSX headquarters are, and they also have a big yard there. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of traffic that comes up from Jacksonville up into Georgia. Now, I was completely unaware to the fact that at those signals that we had seen before, the track actually splits off to the left. If you go straight, you continue onto the CSX Nahunta subdivision, but if you continue left, you go onto the Jessup subdivision. And trains going up the Jessup subdivision will eventually hit Waycross, Georgia in about 30 miles and Atlanta in 100 miles, while trains going up the Nahunta subdivision will eventually hit Jessup in around 50 miles and Savannah, Georgia in 100 miles. And maybe you're as confused as I was when I was researching this map as to why the CSX Jessup subdivision does not go directly to Jessup, but the Nahunta subdivision does.
Zero purpose.
Well, if we go back to the Waycross diamond that I showed you earlier, it turns out that the Jessup subdivision runs to Jessup by taking the left here and then making a right turn at the Waycross diamond and then continuing straight. The Jessup subdivision and the Nahunta subdivision actually converge in Jessup, Georgia. A lot of info, but just know that trains going straight take the Nahunta and trains to the left take the Jessup. And the vast majority of the trains that we saw here took the Jessup subdivision. And speaking of trains taking the Jessup subdivision, we turn our attention right back to the main line, where finally that train that we had seen with clearance as soon as we got here arrived. This happens to be CSX IO26 coming out of Jacksonville, Florida and heading up to Bedford Park, Illinois, being led by 3 CSX GEs and a very horn-happy crew at the throttle.
over there?
It's popping!
Shortly after IL-26 cleared, a lunar aspect was given, which is like a restricted approach on CSX trackage. And this was given for CSX M442 from Tampa, Florida to Waycross, Georgia, which very conveniently had CSX 1836, the Richmond, Fredericksburg, and Potomac Railroad Heritage Unit leading it.
Incredible.
Fresh out of the Waycross paint shops as well, meaning that it was going to be very crisp as it came by. Because it was on that lunar aspect, that means that it had to be going very slow. Despite this, however, it was pretty close by, and it wouldn't take too long before the headlights slowly rounded the curve and M442 came by with the new Heritage Unit. After M442 came by, we actually left Folkston. As I mentioned, there are a lot of intermodals that run the Folkston Funnel. And having a lot of intermodals, that means you have a lot of high priority traffic that comes through. And with high priority traffic and a lot of straight tracks, there are areas where trains can start going very fast. And one of these locations, just 10 minutes away from Folkston, is actually in Florida.
What?
And it's
Oh my goodness, bro. You're kidding me.
Here we find ourselves in Hilliard, Florida, which is just strict in the Hunter subdivision trackage at this point, and which has a lot of intermodal traffic that runs into Jacksonville. Some of the CSX trains that go through here have been marked at hitting 70 miles per hour. Yeah, this isn't stuff that you see in Atlanta. So we were hoping that we were going to be able to see one of those because we could see on the Folkston cam that there was a CSX IO25, the counterpart to IO26, that was approaching us. In addition to that, there was actually a northbound Amtrak train that was coming up out of Florida. So we were hoping to see both at some high speeds. And with the clear off in the distance for IO25, it wouldn't be long before we shortly saw headlights and this priority intermodal came by us. As you could probably tell, that was not 70 miles per hour. So we didn't exactly get what we wanted here. But fortunately, Amtrak offered a glimpse of redemption. As shortly after IO25 came through, the headlights of Siemens Chargers leading this northbound Amtrak train came by.
Why do you because I'm panning.
He's in your way too. Stop.
Just go.
Believe it or not, we actually went back to Folkston and beat this Amtrak train.
I can't believe this.
Apparently there was a malfunctioning crossing somewhere down the trackage, so Amtrak actually had to stop and flag the crossing before they could proceed, giving us just enough time, barely, to beat it to Folkston before it came racing by northward. With Amtrak leaving us and the daylight following suit, it was time for us to find a place to stay. Believe it or not, there are many people that know about the hype of Folkston, so some people have taken the initiative to provide amenities for the foamers that are in the area. Going back to the railroad map here, we can see that just adjacent to the tracks is the Folkston viewing platform, which is literally just a shaded gazebo type area for people to watch the trains. And in addition to that, there are a number of trackside stays that are available for people to stay right next to the rails so that they never miss anything. And two of these stays are in fact old railroad cabooses. that have been retrofitted with electricity, running water, bedding, and other household amenities. And it will be in one of these cabooses that we stay tonight. We are currently in an old Seaboard system caboose, and as you can see from the interior, it's equipped with 2 bunk beds and a bunch of different photos to show old trains going through Folkston and pictures of the rolling stock that is our humble abode for tonight. And I'm not gonna lie, considering that this is a railroad car, this is actually pretty nice. The inside was very clean and cozy, the Wi-Fi was well, and it really provided everything that you would find inside a hotel. In addition to little tidbits of railroad history that fit into the passion of the railroad enthusiast that's more than likely living in here. And when I say that we are sitting right next to the tracks, I am not joking, because just out the back of the caboose is the CSX main line that runs right through Folkston.
It's lit in here, huh?
And remember that old Mo train that I had seen before with the ST40-2?
Yeah.
Yep, that happened to be right behind us, and the idle was still running.
Oh my God.
Sure, that noise won't get old. Anyways, it was a couple hours before anything else came by, until we returned back to the grade crossings in Folkston, where there was some southbound manifest coming out of Waycross on the Jessup subdivision, in addition to something else that has clearance on the far track. Before that other thing came, however, this manifest would arrive with a solo Tier 4 Gevo leader on the front. So far, out of all the trains that we've seen, only one of them has been on the Nahunta subdivision, and that was Amtrak. And speaking of Amtrak, that clearance on the track on the right side was for yet another Amtrak train. So we decided to make our way down the Nahunta subdivision specifically, and found ourselves here. We are currently in the middle of nowhere in Winneker, Georgia. And the reason that we have come up here is for one, Amtrak PO52 that has been lined up. Now, PO52 is actually one of 2 Amtrak auto trains that are half passengers and half auto racks.
Whoa.
This is a very special train that runs up from Sanford, Florida, all the way up to Lorton, Virginia. And it allows people to actually load their cars on the auto rack and then sit in one of the Viewliner cars until they get to their destination. And then people can actually unload their cars. This isn't really a train you find unless one of the 2 Amtrak auto trains runs through your line. Unfortunately, it runs through Folkston and up the Nahunta subdivision. The second reason that we are out here is because I mentioned before that trains tend to go really speedy down in this area, considering that there are long stretches of completely straight track. And Winneker happens to be one of the high-speed areas on the Nahunta subdivision that isn't too far from Folkston. And being that trains are allowed to go very high speed throughout here, you might be able to guess that this area is pretty quiet. It really felt like a fever dream standing out here. Besides the occasional car that passed by, there may be 3 of those that passed by on the road that we were on. It was quite literally just us, the rails, and a few bugs. With it being quiet and on a straightaway, it did make it pretty easy to know when Amtrak was coming by. And it wouldn't be too much of a wait before PL52 appeared off on the horizon and came racing by us. That was pretty nifty, not gonna lie. They truly were booking it up on this straight track. Anyways, from here, we return right back to Folkston, Georgia. Why? Because CSX M457 is coming down the Jessup sub, and it is being led by the same lash-up that we saw leading CSX M442 earlier in the day, meaning that the RFMB heritage is trailing once again.
W's in the shot.
And I found myself sitting in the now empty shopping district that's in the Folkston area, awaiting the arrival before the gates activated for M457. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this spot was not the move.
Disgusting.
You are so sorry. This is the shot you ended up with.
Once this train cleared, it was time to head back with the rest of the crew and await a little more action that was coming up our way.
Bro, quit filming me, bro.
My fault.
Like, bro, quit recording me.
Nope.
The shenanigans.
We unfortunately never got a close look of those CP motors that we saw earlier by Waycross, but we would get another shot with Canadian power because of CSX B241 that was coming down the Jessup subdivision with two Canadian National G-Bills leading it. One of them sporting the standard Canadian National scheme, and another one sporting the X-City Rail scheme. And not only that, the leader had a P5 horn on it. One of the last horns I expected to hear on CSX lines. And in addition to that, there was a CSX M208 that was coming up. And we didn't know if we were gonna have a rolling meet or not. Damian had said that they almost certainly were not gonna pass by each other in a rolling meet here, but I had my hopes up.
Let's go.
A brother like me is very happy right now. How can I not be happy with an unexpected rolling meat spawning on us here in Folkston? This would not be the end of our nighttime adventures, however.
What do you mean by that?
It was time for us to head back up to the Nahana subdivision and head right back to Winneker.
Hold on. Wait. Just film forward. Like straight forward.
Good evening.
Now, with it being a few hours after our initial time out here, it has gotten even quieter and even more lonely, with the only light being from the moon overhead and from a pair of signals off in the distance, one of them being green for CSX IO38, coming up from Jacksonville, Florida and heading up towards Charlotte, North Carolina. And the fever dream experience would only continue. Of course, it was not this bright in real life, but these photos truly capture how unreal of an experience it was just standing out here in the middle of nowhere, with just you and a few bugs being the only living things. Things would shortly get more alive when the headlights of CSX IO38 came by, and we heard a deep howl off in the distance, letting us know that we were finally going to get our very high-speed interval.
Did you hear the howl?
That's 70.
Unbelievably, literally right after IO38 cleared us, Amtrak was lined even with the EOT still blinking off in the distance. And we didn't want to stay at this same crossing because we had already seen 2 trains here. So we went down to a crossbuck. So the only lights would be from the moon, the headlights of the car, and the signals, which unbelievably, despite being miles away from us, could barely be seen even by my camcorder.
Can you even see the green?
Now I can.
Really?
It's literally a singular dot on the screen.
Alex just walked by.
Like,
So that
look at that.
green light is, I guess, 6 miles away, right?
It must.
Can I do a little narration?
Yeah, sure.
So we're at Winoker, Georgia right now. We're looking northward on the, is this Jessup sub or?
Nahunta.
Nahana sub. We can see over 6 miles in that direction and turn around and look south. And we can see at least 4 miles to the next siding in that direction as well.
I can legit cannot see the signals, bro. Hold up. Let me try to finesse it. Yeah, bro, I'm not picking
They're
up.
pretty bright red.
Bro, they're not popping up.
Zoom all the way out and see if you can get a red speck.
Yeah, I just zoomed all the way out. Bro, like you just can't see them, bro. Oh, hold up. I think I caught him. Yeah, I caught one. Yeah.
Amtrak should be here.
And speaking of lights, the slim speck of Amtrak 92's headlights appeared on the horizon shortly after our arrival here, triggering the intermediate signals to activate as well as 92 races on the straightaway up north.
Yeah. Oh, shoot, he's actually mad close. Hold up.
And thus, today's adventures come to an end. From coming across very rare shortline operations, to finally visiting the infamous CSX Folkston Funnel, to having a very out-of-worldly experience being out here rail fanning in the middle of nowhere, this night was such a blast, and I'm very glad I was able to share it with you all. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and as always, my friends, God bless, I will see you soon, out on the high iron.